Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Hotline League. We are so close to the start of LTA. It's starting next week, and boy, are things starting to heat up. I have just gotten back from the first day of Asset Week. It's really 2 days, but in the English language, we don't have a great singular word for a 2-day period of time. At Asset 48 hours. Either way, we're going to talk about that. Things are starting to get moving. We've had the official update from fraudulent Commissioner Mark Zimmerman. And so we'll talk about that. He did a little video that got released, I think today, or maybe it was yesterday. I don't know. Some tiny little video. And so that's pretty cool. And there's a whole lot going on. But first, I want to shout out NZXT for sponsoring the show. We'll talk more about them later. Secondly, I want to introduce tonight's co-host for the last 18 months. I think it's been about 18 months. Cubby, how's it going?
It's been like, I think it's been 13 because I was
tracking. You feel it in your bones
18 months ago. Yeah, it's just the Monday clock, you know.
I guess the Mark announcement happened in like December 23. So yeah, maybe It's not been 18 months.
Yeah, because we did the holidays and then we came back and yeah. So excited for year 2 of Hotline League, Travis. And yeah, I know that we had a couple callers that were really wishing that they got updates about LTA and what's up with that. We definitely have some. I've yet to check the website to see if the games are up yet, but got some content. And I mean, I'm sure we'll have a caller talk about it, but what do you think about the hype video that they put out for this split, Travis?
Let's wait for the call about it. We're trying to start on a positive note. Actually, I do have a funny story to tell, and I don't think he will mind me telling the story.
Mm-hmm.
So I like right now I did just check the schedule is up for LTA, but it was funny because Mark still sometimes listens to Hotline League, and he messaged me the day after we did it. I don't think he caught it live, but he was listening to it the day after, and he messaged me and he's like, listen, you know what's really funny was we had the LTA schedule all figured out. I thought it was good to go. I submitted it before the break, and then it just never got added in time. And so he's like, we've discovered it on Monday when we came back and from the break, and you were doing Hotline League that night, and we thought we got it fixed by in time, but then it wasn't in time. And so then he's like, you rightfully flamed us on the show for not having the schedule up, but he took that one. He's like, damn, that stings a little bit because he thought he'd gotten it all done in time. So, I think probably things slowed down a little bit going into the holidays, and unfortunately they didn't have the schedule, but it's up now, as well as his overview of the 2025 LTA season. I just clicked into it. That's why you're hearing it. The 2025 LTA address is up, so that's pretty good.
Union.
We should talk a little bit because I've actually I don't fault people who do this, but I'm one of those people that like no news is good news for whenever there's whenever you're worried about somebody in a situation. And I just I did not feel like I needed to go out and post like, hey guys, I'm fine. But
yeah,
I had several messages in the last couple of days, which I was honored to receive, even just from viewers who were saying like, hey, are you good? So for those that have not been paying attention, there's been some pretty gnarly wildfires that have been kicking up over the course of the last week in LA. I actually had 2 couples and their 2 cats and a dog all hunkered down in here on last Tuesday night because there were also a bunch of power outages that were impacting people.
Yeah.
And one of my friends, the couples, one of the couples was near a evacuation warning area, so everybody was crashing at my place on that night.
So Kobe got cats for one night.
For one night, he was asleep when they showed up, but then he woke up, and that night, the cats were pawing at his door over and over and over again. So and I thought he's going to be so annoyed because he's a light sleeper, and he's just the door kept rattling because they kept pawing at it. And I was like, this is perfect. He's going to wake up and he's going to be like, what is this? Why is this happening? And that's going to be a cat. But instead he slept through that apparently for once. And in the morning he was sitting on the couch holding the cat and was very excited about it. It was not what I was hoping would happen.
I got to say, I think animals always know who the animal lovers are. It sounds like Kobe's one of them. The cat knew.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, so that was happening, but how have you been?
I've been okay. I've been trying to hunker down. I mean, I really haven't. I think I've gone out like once or twice this past week. Um, not including just like runs to get quick food. Yeah, I hope everyone listening is staying safe if you're out in this area. I know, kind of like you, Travis, a few people reached out that I haven't heard from in a while because the fires are terrible. I think they're like first, second, or third worst fires in California ever in history. And this is my first experience with fires too. But yeah, they aren't heading towards us, like towards downtown LA, but that doesn't mean that they're not spreading. They still are spreading, and it's been brutal. So
yeah, it's one of those weird
yeah.
things where, look, my heart goes out to everybody who's been super impacted by this, and
Oh yeah.
and I say that knowing that there are people that are associated with the LTA or LTA teams who have been impacted from family members or people they know or whatever. But it's a really weird situation because I think I was considering this last week when I was getting all these messages. It's like the vast majority of natural disasters, when a natural disaster hits a city, it hits the city, right? And like everybody is in that area is like hunkered down from, a hurricane or something along those lines. The fires are weird or unique, I guess, in the sense that like they are happening, even though I could see them from the roof of my my building, like they are happening pretty far away, and it would take I don't want to dox myself too much, but like an entire university would have to burn down before they got to me. So like it's one of those weird things where you're kind of like, well, I'm fine, even if, and it's bizarre, but you're kind of like going about your day while there's this like this thing that's crawling over the mountain and perhaps gonna hit a neighborhood or something. So it's just a really unique situation. And I think a lot of people who don't live in areas where this type of thing is prone, that's hard for them to sort of imagine like, oh, you're just fine and going about your day and working at LA while this natural disaster is like hitting your area.
Yeah, I felt that same thing. Like Saturday was the first day I actually did stuff, and frankly, you couldn't tell that one of the biggest fires in California history was going on from where I was at in the city.
Yeah.
Which was like really surreal, frankly, because I've had the news up. With the Sunset Fire, that's close to me, like without doxing myself. I went up to a rooftop and was watching them fight that and put it out. And the evacuation zone was 6 blocks. So kind of like you, it'd have to get through a pretty good chunk of urban jungle to affect me directly. But I was close to having to evacuate. That was the one night that was interesting for me. Besides that, I'm like pretty much in the middle of both of them, so I'm not really impacted. But man, just it's been a really surreal week. I feel like that's just the best word that I can use, because you look at the news, you see the clips, and everyone's seeing this, and it's terrible. And then I walk outside, and I can't really tell that it's going on, even
right?
Because
depending on the day,
miles from me.
and where you're situated, it might be blue skies as far as you can see.
Yeah,
you might look up air quality. Air quality is like better than average because the winds are blowing everything out. Or it might be a day, I think it was like Thursday or something, where maybe the winds had calmed down for a little bit. Like I couldn't go outside without wearing a mask because it would just be really hard to you would know that you're breathing in ash and smoke and stuff. So it has been, as you said, very surreal. But I've been safe, thankfully, and I've been helping some friends and offering help to other friends who have been in more danger zones. But I do want to give a huge shout out to the firefighters and all the work folks who are going through and doing all this stuff. There's been some really interesting conversations and content around incarcerated individuals who go out to fight these fires, which I think I don't know, it's just people are such heroes to go out and do all these types of things. And it's been fascinating too, because like on, I think it was Friday night, it was going down one of the hills, and they've basically been like kind of corralling it, I guess is a decent way of describing it, where it like starts to get close to a community, and there was all these people that had to start evacuating, and thankfully it didn't go into like the majority of that community, and they were able to kind of move it away from there, and it starts heading back into the hills in a different direction. So yeah, it's been definitely a strange time. But So shout out to everybody who's working on this and making sure that we're safe. And again, thinking about all the people who have been impacted. So
yeah, for sure. A lot of people have been impacted. It's just brutal.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into some League of Legends stuff, though. So things that we've had in the past week, we had the hype video come out.
Mm-hmm.
We had the address come out. I was at Asset Day today. I did content with. We're doing quiz content. Actually, I don't think any of them watch the show, so I'll just tell you guys what this is. So, one of the things that I have decided to do is to, for one of the quizzes, ask all the players if they can tell me how the format works. And it's going to be such good content. I won't say who, but there are some pro players who did not know that there was a international event taking place at the end of Split 1 until today. So it's, yeah.
Well, they don't have to worry about it because the LAN South team is going to win, right? Or
yeah,
LTA
exactly.
South, yeah, they don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. But that's been fun. And then I don't know if there's been anything that I'm forgetting, Cubby.
No, some official announcements are coming out. Dignitas announced they have Surdy. It's not like stuff that we haven't known. There was obviously the new patch for the game's out, and LPL started, so there is some pro play going on with Otacon, the new monster objective at 20. The game changed a lot.
I have not played Summoner's Rift in a while. I was playing it some last year, but I haven't played it probably in 6 months. And I will say that Mel getting announced is something that makes me want to get back into it.
So this is funny. I was part of the game capture team for Mel. So I got a sneak peek at the season 15 map and some of that stuff because we play on the dev server to capture it. And we worked on, I was just brought in as a body to help record gameplay content for Mel. But God, when I saw that W on Mel and we just sat in a room and started testing like what it works on and what it doesn't, I'm really hoping that one of the clips that we got actually shows up or it gets used in a couple things because some of the stuff that you can block is, I cannot believe that champion exists. That kit is not okay. It is really, really, really broken. So I don't think Mel's good for the game, but it's being released and we're definitely going to see it a lot because that champ it's a super broken kit. Oh my God. So outside of just the W2 guys, but yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, we should say that you were playing it before it was even on PBE. So I guess there are changes that could still.
I mean, they didn't change. They could have changed the numbers, of course, but they didn't change the kit itself. And like it scales off of how many people that you hit in a fight. And you have like a 3 or 4 second AoE queue. And so if you get like 3 champions impacted, then your R gets and everything else gets buffed up. And then you have that reflectability too. So yeah, I think it's like really good. I think it won't be blinded that much because there will be champs that can counter it. But yeah, for a red side counter, I mean, the teams are gonna have to worry about picking certain champions to just make Mel too broken. In certain games, kind of like Silas Impact on draft. So, but yeah, new season has been interesting. There has been a lot of discussion around that. So I know that we aren't usually as gameplay focused, but if anyone has any takes about the new season, that might be fun to have today.
Yeah. Definitely have a lot more takes that we did last week. I'll say that. Last week was funny because I think people were still, getting back into the year or whatever, and people were not as close to LTA and whatever. Last week was a pretty dry episode, so I'm happy to see that the pleb calls and sub calls are already filled up with folks waiting for it. So I should say we're going to do kind of open, as the title says, and for those that are listening to the bot and stuff, we're going to do open calls from folks. So really whatever you all want to talk about, whatever thoughts you have. We looked a little forward to 2025 season last week, but can still continue to have those types of takes this week, and excited to talk about more going on. So yeah, I see PP Duck in the chat asking about if we talked about the fires, but we did a little bit ago. So if you want to go back and catch that would be good.
If you guys want to call in, discord.gg/Travis at me, at Cubby in the server. If your take's good, we'll play it in the waiting room. We get 3 calls in the tank at the moment, but that means we're looking for more. So feel free to drop your takes in subtopics or pub topics, and we'll make this a good show.
Yeah, should be good. While we get those final takes going in, I will say, so I guess in addition to the Mark update that he did, or the LTA address he did with, unfortunately, I forget the name of the LTA South leader, but we also had the MSI location revealed, which was Vancouver. We knew it was going to be in Canada. Yep. And then we also had it confirmed that we're going to be getting Worlds next year in North America. So that came in the Greeley and Whalen update in like the League of Legends video. So we get, and I think they also confirmed that First Stand, I keep calling it First Strike, First Stand is happening in Brazil next year. So of the 6 international events happening over the next 2 years, LTA is getting half of them, which I think is pretty cool. So that's neat.
Yeah.
Anyway, cool. should we get into the calls, Cubby?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. I'm writing as we get the next caller in, or the first caller in. I will say that I'm writing some pretty good vibes because getting back into Asset Week and doing content, all that stuff this day, I think really helped get me excited for the start of the new split. So thank you to Benjamin, Stizzleswick, Austin, Liberia, Lit Drummer Boy, Danny Grimm, Hustbust, Ewok, Fishy, and Tom Jack for the subs. Thanks everybody for subbing. We're still crawling out of the sub hole that we went into whenever we had the huge break without episodes. Oh my God! Speaking of long-time subber, Real Foxy 1 with the 86 months. That is crazy. Thank you so much.
7 years and change.
Because 86, yeah. I need to start figuring out what the thresholds are because my multiplication tables for 12 have not been as prevalent. We got Bug Juice Reviews here. Bug Juice Reviews, where are you calling from?
Calling from Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Kalamazoo, Michigan. What do you want to talk about on the show?
All right, so there is no bigger bottom feeder org than that of Dignitas. Shopify Rebellion has as many finals weekends appearances, and we all know how last year went for them. They sucked.
When you talk about finals weekend appearances, do you talk about over the course of all of Dignitas, or do you talk about like post-franchise Dignitas?
It's funny that you mentioned that because I went back and looked, and although, regular season is nice, people really only care about how you finish in the playoffs, correct?
Sure.
So I went back and looked, and I have a list of all the teams that have finished top 3 more recently than Dignitas.
Okay.
Of course, we have the ones with TL, Fly, and 100 Thieves this year. And then going back slightly further, we have Cloud9. Then we get into
C9's a little further after those 3? C9's a little bit like further back after those 3? I just want to make sure.
I mean, yeah, they just weren't this past, split.
Yeah, they were 2023.
I know.
Right?
I just wanted to make sure the C9 fans heard that, that's all. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, they weren't top 3.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, continue.
So, after that, we get into NRG, which doesn't exist in Tier 1 anymore. We also have Golden Guardians, which, same case. Evil Geniuses, also there. TSM has made top 3 more recently than Dignitas. CLG made top 3 more recently than Dignitas. And again, this is post-playoffs. They did finish top 3 in the regular season, but if we're looking at just playoffs, we're not done. Because Echo Fox, Immortals, Phoenix 1, LMQ, Team Vulcan, and Good Game University.
Good Game University, who made finals in their first ever split. In the first ever split of so you're saying they've never finished top 3 in a playoff?
They have never finished top 3 post playoffs. Now,
are we counting Clutch? Because that wasn't Dig, but obviously I think that's where they bought back in. So
I mean, you could, but if we're going specifically with the Dignitas name, which is the one that's in the now LTA, they've never made top 3. Now, I know we had the discussions earlier, and by earlier I mean a couple months ago now it feels like, of trying to get good orgs in and trying to get bad orgs out. And I know, Travis, in the video that you made of some of the best things that happened this year, which, by the way, if you haven't watched and you're a viewer, you should absolutely go check out. You mentioned Immortals leaving. I think Dignitas leaving would be right up there in the same vein if it were to happen in 2025.
It is interesting that like this is kind of the first call of the second show of the year, and it does demonstrate to me a little bit about like Immortals was very good for Dignitas because we now have Immortals out, and now people can start gunning for Dignitas in a way that they did not before. So it is pretty funny. Okay, so Dig bad, Dig bottom feeder. What is your overall point with all of this? Like, do you have a call to action, or is there a conclusion there?
It's a mix of call to action and just something has clearly gone wrong in that org, much like Immortals had. Because, we look at Dig season last summer, and you look at some of the big names that were in there, and everyone said, oh yeah, they're going to be great. And then, that one might be a special case, but things just did not work out. It seems like whatever Dignitas does, it does not work out. So either something's got to change or they've got to go, in my opinion.
Yeah, Kevin, why don't you take this up first?
I mean, for me, like, something that I think always matters or comes up is, if we're going to talk about getting a team out, is who would you want in? And outside, like, I don't think there's a lot of orgs that are endemic to League that I can be like, oh, add them in and it's going to be good. In the past, I could say add Disguise to the League. I think it would have a real positive impact, and I really hope that's the case for this upcoming season. But I don't have a team like right off the bat that I'm like, okay, like let's get them in. Unless you get like Sentinels that want to have
Sentinels is the one I was thinking of, because I know that they've always been in the rumor mill around a potential team that could enter the league. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if they are interested, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like if Dignitas, if Riot was uninterested in having Dignitas in the league, last season would have been the time to put that into action. Seemingly they're like fine with Dig being around. It must mean that they're like decent partners for Riot. They must consider themselves easy to work with or something. But yeah, I mean, Cubby, I kind of feel like last year, if they were gonna ever do something, the meme with the stick, please do something. It feels like last year was the year they were going to do something. And now I don't know. I mean, the league has only, in some sense, gotten easier to place higher in. We're now down to 8 teams. Like, there are not high cost imports pouring in every split. Like, I don't know why one should be a Dignitas fan at this point,
I mean, I will say that Surdy's the best like prospect or rookie that has been on this team since Vulcan, if we are going to count CG. And I would be excited about Surdy being on Dignitas if I were a Dignitas fan. In the past, this is a player that would have been contract jailed or like behind a buyout paywall and would have been waiting to go to a top team. And just because of how the ecosystem works now, less turnover, these secondary teams that you can't house players or have buyouts, Surdy ends up going to Dig, who this is the best player that is young that a bottom tier org has gotten since Immortals and Kenvi. I know that didn't turn out well, and people like look away from that, but just watching these players come up, like that guy did have game, and I would be excited about that if I'm a Dignitas fan. The fact that I do get access to someone that I feel like is a legit talent, so that's something that can at least.
Cubby, let me ask you, as a person who likes to see, North American talent and tier 2 talent and all this stuff, rookies succeed, is it disappointing for you that this player ended up on Dig? And I asked this partially because, like, look, Immortals was kind of the whipping boy. It is fair that, like, Dignitas might become the whipping boy. And And I think that one of the disappointments for a long time was that you would see some rookie talent go to one of these orgs, and it would actually, in some cases, be career ending, or people would get this bad impression of the player, because it's just like in league esports in particular, like it is just really difficult to look like a good player when you're on a losing team, and for people to be excited. So I don't know.
First off, for me, did that Immortals Kenvi roster work? No. Is that the approach that those teams should take? Yes. I think that the goal in that league was, if you were Immortals or Dignitas, to have a player like Revenge, where he is someone that is performing well and that you can sell to almost move up in terms of the league, because you don't have the money to compete with everyone else. Now, money's down now. I still don't think Dig has money or wants to spend.
Honestly, from what I can tell, I feel like Dig is. I gotta imagine they're in the middle of the pack, or near the top half at least. Like, you heard otherwise? Like, I don't know, because
there's a big difference between the top three and
everyone else. Yeah. But my rumor that I had heard was that like Dig spending basically, like, they went from the bottom spenders or near the bottom to like now everybody else went down and they stayed the same, and so they were just like chilling with the same budget they've always had, and now they're able to like, I mean, it's part of the reason I think they were able to build that roster in summer, right? So
I mean, I think that this has been the case though for a while, where Dig's been somewhat middle to packer money, or like not bottom tier. I'm not going to count that as new. I would be excited though. I don't know if Surdy is going to succeed or not, but I mean, going to Dig straight up, like, I think him and Rigby could be a winning formula, and you do have to beat a losing culture there, because whether you like it or not, you've never made a top 3 weekend. No one in that building knows what it feels like to do that throughout a split, and hopefully some of the new guys that come in can break what's been there and actually provide Dig with winning. I do think that the formula, or like what they went with, would have been the formula that I would have went with. Outside of, I would have try to pick up UG, but obviously UG, what happened this offseason was a tragedy. And I would have said that, like, regardless of who the jungler was, and for other teams as well. But yeah, I actually think that Dig, like with Rigby, with Surdy, they have a decent start, or a good approach as to what's going on. And I'm hopeful that Shaden is going to compete with them for the next split, and hopefully they can do some good stuff. Frankly, I feel like Dig made the right approach. So I can't really complain about being a Dig fan. It's just that they do have to overcome what you're hinting at, and what this caller is hinting at, the fact that, again, they've never made a top 3 weekend. Like, that's something where you have people that are in the building and have been there for a long time, and you're going to have to get the new guys in and do it together as a team this time around.
I am pretty close to being where I was with Immortals, which was just a lack of faith that any roster would be able to. You know, you start to feel like there's something endemic to the org, or the, you know, ecosystem that org is putting together, that just prevents success, you know, or at least hampers top tier talent. I think it's fair to
think that, Travis, if you don't mind me jumping in.
Go for it.
So you mentioned that, you know, their spending hasn't really changed. Their placements haven't really changed. Not a whole lot is changing. They don't seem like one that's incredibly motivated. Yes, they got Surdy, and they're hoping to try to get some new talent in, but it also seems like maybe that was just someone that was in their budget for this year. It almost feels like they're stagnant right now, just kind of holding a spot. And I think it's a little bit unfortunate that, you know, we also have the Dignitas provisional spot, and we're having this conversation about Dig. And we already said earlier, there's not really many notable orgs that we would say, yeah, please, that'd be a great partner for the LTA.
I want to give Dig the benefit of the doubt to at least play, because, again, I think that Rigby Surdy is decent change. Like, again, I feel like this is the right approach. We'll just see if they're Dignitas or if they're actually different this split. I do think that there's a better chance.
At what point, Cubby, would you give up? You know, like, if they don't work this year, are you then like, Dig can't do it, or like what?
So like here's my thing is I have given up on Dig already. I can't give up on Surdy or Rigby, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I actually feel like if anyone can go in and break that, it can be them. I feel like they're good candidates to break whatever, losing culture or lack of success that they've had there.
I mean, is a rookie the one that's going to break it? Like,
we'll see. Like, I think
yeah,
he has the chance to. Like, I mean, he's very like strong-willed. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. No one else has been able to break it. I mean, I thought his Ven team would be able to break it. Maybe
that's what I mean, right? Like, I have more looking at when I saw that roster last year, I was like, okay, this roster can just like self-coach. Like they can at least. I don't know if they will be top 3, but like they should be able to be compelling in some fashion. And then even that did not work, and that's whenever I started. I feel like if those guys can't do it, I'd be very surprised if a rookie is going to come in. Rigby's an interesting thing. I don't have enough data from his time. It's hard to know how much of a factor he was in EG's success versus other people, but I don't know. We'll see.
I think that team had issues that.
I mean, sure.
Like,
of course,
I actually never really like. I thought I was hopeful they could do stuff, but they had issues. I hope that some of the changes they made can fix some of the issues. I do feel like they upgraded top jungle, for sure. I'll take Sven over Tomo, but I don't think Tomo is like a massive downgrade by any means. And we'll see what Keen's like. I've been going over some VODs for scouting, and Keen has some hands, but Rigby is going to have to work with these guys a lot about like their focus in the game and attention. But I actually think macro-wise, like Surdy and Shading can get some things right if they actually get leads, and I feel like they're good enough to get leads. So yeah, I have more hope for Dig with this iteration of the roster, frankly, than I do for the last one. Just because I think that, especially jungle, like they upgraded.
bugjuice reviews. What's the takeaway here? Do you have any kind of what would you like to see done differently? What would you like the ramifications to be? Like, if let's say it is true and Dig sucks and then they continue to suck this year, then like what happens?
I think they just, like you said earlier, they become the new whipping boy of the LTA North. They take the place of Immortals almost. If we have another org that comes in and looks like, yep, they're absolutely great, it'd be awesome to see that, or to see Dignitas make an exit, much like Immortals just made their exit. But I almost feel like they're on a very similar path.
Yeah,
maybe they could get some form of change going in where they just have someone new completely revamp the organization, and maybe it is, like Covey's been saying, maybe it is Surdy and Rigby, but who knows? If it fails, I mean, obviously I'm already past my final straw, so I'm ready to move on. I just don't know who we move on to.
Well, remember that I am the resident Shopify Rebellion skeptic / hater, and I felt like last year they didn't really do anything to make a name for themselves, and the league didn't do much content, do much anything. And I mean, there's not much that I've seen going into this year that has made me more of a believer in them. So I don't know. I think maybe we'll end up seeing something interesting happen there. I don't know, but I think that they are a contender, given how things go this year, for also a pretty new Immortals team. Anyway, thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Well, yeah, of course, I got to shout out bugjuice. I'm also going to shout out the YouTube subs for TGI. If you have the ability to afford it, it's not incredibly expensive. It's actually even cheaper than a regular Twitch sub. Strongly encourage it. You get those free videos. I'm sure Travis will make a call out for it later on, but it is pretty nice. Also going to shout out my fiance. I'm going to say go Buckeyes for the national championship. And lastly, the condolences to those affected by the fires, like you mentioned earlier. Hope they're staying safe. Hope you all are staying safe. I know they mentioned it, the LTA seems like they should be all right. Hopefully that stays the same way, and that these fires can be put out eventually. Hopefully quicker. So stay safe and have a great day.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the call. Really appreciate the shout out, and we'll catch you next time.
Yep.
It's a good time to mention the YouTube membership. So for those that don't know, you can become a YouTube member over on my YouTube channel for as low as $2.99 a month. And when you do, you get to vote on a members only video each month for me to do. I always try to make it less esports related because I'm like, well, I make the esports videos anyway. People still end up pushing for me to do more esports ones. But this month, nobody really suggested an esports topic. And so there's still time to vote. The different topics are favorite video games that I played in 2025, favorite food places in LA, my travel itinerary for 2025, and also me talking about trying to convince people to read Brandon Sanderson books. So there's kind of like, look, they're not there. If you only come to this channel because you're like, hey, I just want to hear them talk about League of Legends esports, or they want to watch interviews with pro players or something like that, this membership is probably, it's a great way to support the channel. But if you're doing it for the additional content, it's going to usually be a little bit more goofy or Travis related or whatever. But it is kind of fun for me to just yap about some non League of Legends topic, and you can become a member over there, and you get to vote and make suggestions. Even we take suggestions from folks on what topics we'll do each month, and then I usually try to mix some of those with some of my own. So yeah,
definitely ask about food. Travis has good taste in food. That'll be a good video.
Yeah, some folks have. It's funny because people will make suggestions on what they want to hear from me, and then it won't win, and then they make the same suggestion again, and so we rotate topics back in. And people for a while have been trying to get an LA food guide from me, so maybe that'll end up happening at some point in time. But it is really fun to make those videos, and I'm also sometimes a little more candid in them because they usually get viewed by like 300 people instead of 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 people. So I'm usually a little bit more cavalier with some of the things that I say. Yeah. Either way, thanks for the shout out, Bugjuice Reviews, who keeps trying to get me to do a video about bugjuice, which I'm still not entirely sure what it is. I Google it and I see pictures of it, and I still am flummoxed. Okay, I want to get into the next call.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. Thank you to let's see where we got SLC Soy Boy, Badger Yar, Godzilla Gorilla, Denholm X, and Gerg7. Gerg7. I was hoping that there would be more drama for me to talk about on this week's episode, and then apparently you decided not to create the drama, and so now there's nothing for me to talk about on the drama front for this episode. So
there was no drama?
Yeah. Well, I mean, seemingly you heard the same rumor I did, and it appeared like we got to this point, and seemingly there's no drama.
Ruling. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
So no drama. But Gerg did say finished book 1 of Stormlight Archive. Am I officially in? Well, Mark was telling me that you had missed a pivotal moment in chapter, I think it was 55 of the Stormlight Archive. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm worried about your reading comprehension, I guess is what I'll say. But hopefully you'll take a test after Stormlight 2. And we'll figure it out. Words of Radiance. Okay. We got Dean here. Dean, where are you calling from?
Hello, I'm calling from Lincoln, Nebraska.
Lincoln, Nebraska. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, so the LTA for their hype video that they released a couple days ago, they had that shot where they had the players from LTA North and LTA South doing like that face-off. And I think that the players they chose for that, for the most part, were okay, but some of them were really, really weird, and I don't like some of the specific inclusions. The big one is they had Fudge over Sniper, which I'm not a very big fan of. I think Sniper should have been pivoted as one of the big faces of the LTA North going forward. And then on the LTA South side, they had both Teton and Brantz. And I don't hate either of those two players individually, but I think having two marksmen is kind of weird when you're doing like a 4 different roles on each side type thing. But it's like they had that slot that they used to just say, people know who Brantz is, let's go ahead and give it to him, instead of trying to push a newer player that maybe LTA North fans don't know, or just like try to help build some new players' brand as well. Because like right now, as a LTA North viewer, I have no reason to care about any of the South players. So like, may as well just use that as a chance to like get some more names and some more faces out there, so that I have a reason to say, who's that guy? What team's he on? Cool, I'm a cheer for that guy now. He was in the hype video.
So My question though for you is like, is seeing a small shot of a player in a hype video going to be enough to get you to cheer for that player?
That small shot, maybe not, but if the rest of the video, like you're showing now, how it has like, here's a glimpse of this player's personality and like them doing like they're just like you. Look at them waking up and getting ready to go to school at the LTA. You know, why don't we have someone else there and be like, hey, who's that cool guy? I feel like it's just another missed
I'm more
opportunity.
confused by why they included this guy on the left here. I don't know if you guys can see that.
The
it's
fans.
very confusing. No, not the
guy?
fan.
I think they were giving him a chance to live out his dreams.
I think he's a washed LTA caster. I don't know. Anyway.
You mean washed LCS caster?
Well, yeah, exactly. He's snuck his way into LTA.
Well, yeah, it's LTA now. Yeah.
So you're just overall disappointed with like some of the player inclusion in this.
Yeah, just like because if the whole idea of the LTA is to like be the next step forward, and there's more like new brands and like players and like the whole like starting fresh thing, I feel like they just could have had better players. And then especially when you go into like the face-off thing, it's a really like weird nitpick, and I acknowledge that, but I feel like it should have been like 4 players of each role. Because as like if you go to that shot right now at like 156, you have like a marksman standing across from a mid laner and a jungler standing across from a ADC, and it's like a really weird nitpick. I acknowledge that, but it's like just looks weird if you know who these players are, and if you don't, you have no reason to care about LTA South.
I mean, I will say that I don't think that they care fully about the immersion of it, having like an AD stand across from a mid. I mean, in other shots, like something that for whatever reason I didn't like or looked cheesy for me was the shots of the players where they're in front of the computer in the chair and the fans are like on top of them, right behind them, just because I know that's not how it is or how it works. So like for me, I guess some of the complaints, like it's just not a priority for them. Like, frankly, just to have people like, I don't know. I don't think that like the full immersion thing was like the biggest importance.
I don't think they were going for realism. I don't think they expected for people to be like, listen, at 156, there's only 4 players, and there's actually 5 people who play League of Legends on a team. So this video has failed me. I mean, I think it's much more a video that is about the vibes and hyping sort of these 2 conferences, both sort of getting ready to pair off against each other. So I don't have as much of an issue with it. I don't really care so much about the players that they choose because I feel like they chose players who are popular enough in each of the regions to appear in the video. The other thing is that I really imagine that there was some constraints in which players they could get, because as they're all in the same shot, it's clear to me that like these players had to fly a ton of miles during an off season to be able to like go shoot this thing. And so I'm sure that it was a situation where they had to figure out like who was doing what. I actually feel a little bad in this video because like I know that Kobe had to go fly to, I mean, he posted about it on his Instagram story, but he had to go fly to Brazil for this. And there's like very small shots of him with like in Brazil. So like you guys sent him all the way there and used him for like a 1 second, shot or something.
Frankly, like that kind of stuff too. I feel like that could have been a cool opportunity for the video. Is like there was a big league shakeup, and having a portion of the video, you see people get ready and go into the studio, but actually like the traveling or like changing locations, like having that be at the start instead of in the middle, like it's our standard workday. It could have made it feel more impactful. I know that Kobe's in Brazil here, but it's like it would have been cool if that was almost gassed up as a surprise, or like you weren't expecting that, instead of just, oh, look, he's in Brazil jumping with the fans, right? It might be fun to actually feature people that like are gonna like did have a mix up or are in like in different spots or different conferences. Like, oh shit, who's a LCS player that's like playing in LTA South, like showing them like just flying over there, like in the Brazil studio, like that would have been cool, or so I feel like there were some missed opportunities there. And for me, this is like kind of just stock standard like hype video that looked like they had a lot of bodies and it was active, which I appreciate, but I didn't get the same emotional feel or resonance that I've gotten from other season hype videos or stuff like that.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I think Numi pointed this out, but this is you were talking about this shot, Cubby, I believe. I think this is Bayano.
Yeah, well, I can see it now because like there's a ring light, but why does he look like he's playing the game? And then
it's because he's at the co-streaming booth. He's a co-streamer. So
I know he's a
popular because the twist is supposed to be that you see Kobe you see Kobe, you see Kobe and Bayano, I think both getting ready, but they're actually in opposite places. Like Bayano is in the LTA North. This is where I think the video doesn't work as well because like the really players around or the fans around Bayano are wearing LTA North merch, and then obviously you see I believe they are probably Brazilian fans, but you see Kobe hanging out with all the CBLoL fans. So I think I wish there had been a better push to spark rivalry here. Like it would have actually been cooler. I feel like if Bayano and Kobe were in some sort of conflict with each other, or they were, shoutcasting and screaming at each other as shoutcasters or something, to sort of spark the rivalry between the two. And I do feel like the players waking up is a bit of an overused trend, because I feel like I've seen this in a lot of different videos, including a LCS hype video where like they're waking up and getting ready. And so I think in team videos and all this stuff, it's just like very popular to be like, we'll get the players getting ready and getting up and all this stuff. So
yeah,
like
they never talked at all. Like the players don't get anything to say, which is I don't like that.
Yeah,
I
don't mean to shit on this because I know a lot of people like worked on it, and so I don't think that it was like a lazy video by any means, but I don't think that for me it did not particularly feel like it was a really exciting hype piece that got me hyped for LTA. I thought it was fine. It does its job. They can put videos together, but I would also say that like its performance since it was released is pretty indicative of the fact that it either suffered from poor marketing distribution, where like the time is now, LTA starts Jan 25, like might have been better to be like LTA announcing, revealing the LTA hype video. LTA starts Jan 25. I don't know, but the viewership has not been particularly good, I feel like, on most of the channels, and it didn't really seem to spark too much discussion on the subreddit or elsewhere. So
I feel like it was a bit generic.
Yeah. But it's look, it's fine. I'm not like offended by it or anything like that. But yes, I agree. Could have done more. I will say, Dean, I am not too worried about the players that they chose for it. And I don't honestly think that I think it was just important for them to choose recognizable players. And I think that if they had not done that, then it would have been then the video would have actually been a bit of an issue.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's just a lot of missed opportunities. Like, I agree with you with the rivalry thing, Travis. I mean, what would have been like if you had players from R7 just be like, yeah, like, hey, we clapped you at Worlds like to 100 Thieves, and then they get to respond, and you start stuff up like that, or like you actually show when these regions have clashed, now they're together, and again, none of the players say anything. And for me, that's just disappointing, because if you actually want to latch on to whatever it comes your way for the upcoming split, the players have to say stuff. Like they're just there. It doesn't look like they do.
I mean, even if they were able to hype because I don't know if people have realized this, but there is only 5 days of LTA North broadcast before we send 4 teams to the Brazil studio to fight, and I would have even hyping up that aspect, I think would have been really cool, where it's like, see you in 3 weeks, or something like that, where it's very clear that we're going to see this interregional rivalry in a very short time. So I don't know. I think it could have been cool. Spawn says, "Nah, mute the players. No one wants to hear it." You know what? That's a very fair assessment. And I
spoken like someone.
Spoken like a coach who
spoken
probably
like
mutes his players IRL.
And I guess if I can throw like one last bit on it, I think like the biggest takeaway of like the take is that the video just in general felt like a missed opportunity, and especially like going back and rewatching it, kind of as you guys are talking about it, there definitely are a lot of things that I think could have been improved upon. The players is the nitpick thing, but even just structurally, there are stuff that could have been done differently and better to invest more into the region.
Yeah, I think as a first content piece for the LTA, I would say that this is not. We talked, I think, at the end of last year about. I was like, okay, look, if they're gonna fucking name change this thing and rebrand the whole thing, they better put a lot of time, energy, effort, and money into really promoting the new brand and doing a lot of really cool things with it. And I don't feel like this is enough yet. So hopefully we get some more cool stuff.
Did you see APA and Teton on their phones? And then the one South logo was greater than the North logo on Teton's phone, but then APA was the other way around. They chuckled about it.
That's a lot of the little in jokes, I think, do not like it flies by so fast. Like videos these days need to be fast, but like, yeah, you have to kind of like go like we don't.
Also,
this logo thing is clever.
Here, he must be in LA.
What's that?
He must be in LA. He's texting and driving right now.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's true. Maybe he's parked. But these logos, like, we don't know them well enough yet to like for people to instantly be able to do the equation math on it. I don't know. I don't want to keep shitting on it because I'm not trying even to shit on it. I think the video's fine, but I just I think it's fine, but I don't think it's a great first step if you're trying to really push a brand new brand. Spawn says, Travis, we aren't that dumb. We know one logo is north, one is south. Yeah, I'm not saying that but like you have to like the shot is. Hang on, let's see how quickly we see this. 1, 2. It's a 2-second shot of those things. You have to be able to interpret the logos instantly as everything's flashing around the screen. Dean, anything you want to shout out here at the end of the call?
Yeah. First off, the wildfires that's going on in California. Hopefully everyone is safe. Hopefully everyone is taking care of themselves and their loved ones. On a slightly less serious note, I do want to shout out the Flight Check crew. It is the FlyQuest fan podcast. They just done a interview with Andy Barton a little bit ago before Hotline League started. So if you guys aren't already, you should go check them out on YouTube and Spotify. They do really cool stuff for FlyQuest's all of their games, as well as the LPL English crew. They're doing their best to keep the LPL English dream alive, and that's God's work, so thank you to them. And then also just Park Mom having bad takes on football. No, it should not be Bo Nix. It should be Brock Bowers, and I'm gonna give you crap later.
Who's Park Mom? You said it as if we're all supposed to know who Park Mom is.
He is the FlyQuest social media manager. And he has he also
so he's like the FlyQuest Portillo.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
I'm just going through this video again, and I remember Numi had tweeted that she was somewhere in it. Do we know where she is?
She's in the north with the FlyQuest flag when they all march towards the stadium. Yep.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's her. That's her in the. It's such a quick shot, but it is cool to see that she's in it. I'm happy to see that Numi made it into the video. Listen, if they're not going to have the main man at TGI, I'm happy that they're able to bring the community manager in. You know, maybe they couldn't. Maybe they just knew they couldn't afford my day rate. You know.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Numi wasn't able to rep Hotline League or TGI at all. They had the rep FlyQuest, so too corporate for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Now that we've appropriately belittled the hype video to really spark joy for the beginning of the split, I think we could we'll take a quick break to talk about NZXT, our sponsor for this episode. Folks, please give a lot of love to NZXT because It's really cool that we have a sponsor that committed to a full year with us, because in the off season, which we're in right now, I guess for only a couple of months here, I've only had one sponsor, which is NZXT, and they come in and they say, hey, listen, we don't care what time of the year it is, we're gonna commit to you and sponsor you. And I think that is super swell. NZXT.co/Travis. There's a link in the description. Please go check out NZXT products. Clicking the link and clicking through there is super cool. Obviously, a bunch of new stuff just got announced at CES, and so I'm sure that stuff will be headed towards an NZXT PC near you in the near future. But I'm sure they've got other cool stuff on the horizon as well. And now's a great time to go check out nzxt.co/Travis. It's com without the M. But yeah, there's a link in the description of the video that you can go check it out. And doing so and clicking through that actually really helps, because they know then that people are coming and checking out their products and hardware because of their sponsorship of the show. So I really do appreciate NZXT for sponsoring us. They have some super cool hardware, including a PC that I'm using right now to stream this. I've got the NZXT H6 Flow, and it has a Intel Core 14900K in it and an NVIDIA GeForce 4090. We'll see if I can get that upgraded to a 5000 series soon. But anyway, thank you so much to NZXT for sponsoring the show. Really appreciate having them as a partner of Hotline League. They've been fantastic to work with, and really love them. So thanks so much to NZXT for sponsoring the show. Oh yeah, Numi says they do other things in PCs, for instance, peripherals. It's pretty cool. All right, we got time for a bunch more callers because we're only about halfway through the show.
I'm going to keep on pulling more callers, guys, but if you guys have takes, continue to drop them.
Yeah, we have, we definitely, we try to, especially for these open call nights, keep some spots open in the later show for us to pull people because, people might show up late. They will have some other thing. Maybe they want to respond to a previous caller or something. It's always kind of cool to do that. Over on Twitch, we got Ventus Official, who's been subbed for 78 months. That is crazy. Over on YouTube, no one has sent a super chat or anything. Become a member. There's just, Twitch is kicking YouTube's ass tonight, as they do. Twitch just they stomp all over YouTube, and YouTube. That's how it goes. Sometimes you're not. I'm just stalling because I thought you were getting the next caller.
Oh,
what are you doing? I was just vamping for time, and I look over and he's in the goddamn channel just chilling. What the hell? I was just trying to create Twitch and YouTube beef. I got nothing. All right. Ox says that Cubby is checking the Rams score. Is Cubby a Rams fan? Do you like the Rams?
No, the football game stinks tonight. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we got our next caller here.
Unless you want to see David Shannock suffer in real time because he's a Vikings fan and they're frauds.
But, I do like that. Can we announce that 100 Thieves is becoming a professional team again? Because that was a big David Shannock suffering moment. All right, Beans, where are you calling from?
Calling from Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So my take is that teams should take advantage of the new multiplayer practice tool to optimize practice, and if it's underutilized, I'll be a little depressed.
So for people that aren't all filled in about the new multiplayer practice tool, what kind of stuff did they add, and what do players have now at their fingertips that's different when it comes to the practice tool?
Yeah, I haven't looked too much into it, but from what I've seen, I mean, it is pretty self-explanatory with what you currently have in practice tool, but you can just add a bunch of people to it. I think you can do up to 5v5 now. But I think that there's a lot of things you can do with it. Specifically, I think looking at how traditional sports utilize drills would be a really good comparison, where you don't really see pro sports teams always do scrimmage games. They do a lot of drills to optimize certain tactics or things that they need to work on. And I think that this is something that we're kind of like lacking behind, and adding an option for teams to maybe specialize on, like, dragon setups, for example, or, baron place or something. Just as an example, I think that you can definitely lean more into, what you need to practice instead of waiting. If you want to practice a baron setup, you don't have to play the early game for 20 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the cool uses of this is you can take games from around the world and just look, hey, where are they at before Grubs, before Dragon, before Otacon? And you can set it up where you pick the same champs, you can get the same items, and then you can play it out and like rewind or like replay it out from there too. I don't know if you can D-level in or like take away gold or XP, because that would matter in terms of like running it all in the same game. But yeah, like there are things where you can in-house just be able to load up like pretty much any game state that you want and get to the right time in the game so everything's accurate, and try and play it out and see if you can play it out better or fix mistakes that other teams made. I think it's pretty wild. So minion waves are bugged. Yeah, minion waves are bugged. You can lock XP though, and if like for these objective fights, like that's being highlighted, if you get to the same game time, then the objective will have the same amount of health, I believe.
Cubby's responding to Spawn in the chat for audio listeners who are confused.
Yeah, we're kind of, there's a couple coaches talking here. Teams don't have chrono break. Yeah, but you can lock XP, and then you can go, like, you can kind of run it back. Again, like, this is a way where you can model game states that you see in your games or other stuff. Like, for me, this is one of the use cases that at least I would use it for, or, like, I would want to use it for, is let's take a really high-level game, take the draft, the game state, and then just play it out a few times. Like, can we play this better? What do we need to win? Like, does it change if someone's missing flash? There's like a lot of other ways to min-max this. Like a lot of times in 1v1s, if you talk to pros, like they might run a 1v1 where it's like, okay, Gnar versus Renekton. Let's just hit each other with these items at level 1 and not move, and then see who wins. Or like, let's do that at level 5 or level 6, just to figure out how much damage like you need, or what item breakpoints you need to win out on these matchups. That's just in the 1v1. You can do this now at 5v5 level, whatever it is. So yeah, I mean, I think that I'll be really curious. Definitely something that I'm going to look out for, just to see how teams are utilizing this, because you got to imagine that they're going to do it. I think it's going to be great for laning practice and for actually like running objective fights back. If I could easily see on a day of scrims, like if you have a couple bad fights, you can go recruit some friends or a 5-stack or other people in the building, and then just try and remake or remodel a fight so you can play it better, and actually do it where you're not just talking about it, but you have to execute it, which I feel like is really different from a coaching perspective too. So I think for me, Beans, like I know that you're in the position where you're kind of trying to figure out like what the use cases are and how it can be effective. And like I know, like personally with you, trying to figure out how it can help your teams. And I'm like, for me, I'm just going to keep my ear to the ground and really see, what everyone starts talking about or what they figure out when it comes to this. Because there is a lot of potential, right?
Yeah, I am going to say, because I'm with Blue Otter in the NACL, and I have been talking a little bit with them, and I know we are planning on looking into it a lot and seeing what we can gain from it.
Yeah, like, do you have any like use cases that you feel like it might be useful for, or stuff like you're looking forward to using it for?
Not specifically yet. It's still, super experimental, and I'm hoping they add more customization or changes to it, so that we can kind of, I guess, tweak it. But it's definitely a good start. So we'll see.
Okay.
I heard, see, Gerg in the chat has referenced what I've heard also, is that people are playing volleyball with it. Have you heard about this? They go mid lane and they throw projectiles, and I think like Mel has to send them back or something. I don't know how to describe it, but people are making goofy custom things with it.
If you have 2 Mels, then you can make a lot of TikTok clips.
Yeah, I still find it crazy that they did this in 2025. Like, it's so funny because people talked about this for years, and I feel like over time the team, like I feel like Riot has at times been discouraged from creating tools to support the esport, right? Like solo or Champions Queue is a great example of this. The Pro View, which did not sell well, is another example of it. Like there's been a lot of cases where they've spent dev resources specifically to support the esport, and they've not seen great results from that. Maybe this will be the same if nobody ever ends up using it, but I do think it is really cool that they are doing this. And I'm really excited to learn more about it. I know that we're starting only to just get access to it. I think this week or last week. It's just on PBE right now, right? Am I crazy in this? Chat or somebody can let me know.
No, it should be on the client, live? Right?
People are saying it's on live. Okay. Yeah. So I think that's really cool. I'm also really excited for content creators to hopefully be able to do some interesting stuff or like investigate some things.
Yeah.
What's going to be really funny is when there's some bug that happens in a highly watched esports game and everybody rushes. You then have
you can try and remake it.
1 million people trying to like reproduce the bug, which could be good for Riot, but also might be bad if they're like, oh no, it's fine, just go for it, and then like people figure out that the bug is real or something. So yeah, I think the implications of the practice tool are going to be really interesting, and I do need to start interviewing coaches or teams and asking them like, hey, are you using the practice tool? Have you looked into it? Do you find value in it? I don't know if that is going to be big sub drop. Thank you. I don't know if that's going to be something that they will want to talk about, because if you're a coach and you feel like you're using it and other people aren't using it and you figured out a nice way to do it, maybe you want to keep that as a competitive advantage. But it is really cool. So yeah, I like this take a lot, Beans, and I'm happy you bring up the playtest tool, because I had kind of forgotten about it as the other news was coming out this week. So anything else that you want to I see that you're in chat actively saying L to dodging gifted subs, Beans.
Gotta stay multitask,
Yeah. Anything else that you want to shout out?
Yeah, I think there's definitely, other use cases for the practice tool. I think like content creators could make a lot out of it. People could make their own game modes. Remember back in the old days, you had the on the Dominion map, people were playing like hide and seek and stuff like that. So old players remember. You can
ARAM started as a just a custom mode that fans were playing in custom games. So like it would also be really cool if people develop something,
I'm just waiting for someone to develop a Nico prop hunt. I think that's going to be a big thing.
That would be good. Like there are so many little mini games that I'm surprised that they don't keep as like a fun little rotation where they turn it on for a weekend. I was talking to somebody about this because I play so I've played WoW a lot in the last 5 or 6 months since it came out, maybe 5 months. I also play Nikkei, which is like a mobile game, and there's so many games these days. Like the new meta is like, hey, here's a fun little game mode or like game feature or something that people would not enjoy over long periods of time, but that we will turn on for a limited amount of time. And I was talking about this within the context of the Arcane ARAM map that I believe is now turned off. It's like that should just come back every now and then as like, hey, for this weekend or for this holiday event or whatever, we're going to be turning on this map. And I don't understand why they don't do that type of stuff. So I don't know. But Beans, thanks so much for the call. Any specific shout outs or anything?
Shout out the LTA North Discord. Can't say LCS Discord anymore, but LTA North Discord and Blue Otter, obviously.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much for the call. We'll catch you next time.
Have a good one.
Yeah. Huge shout out to PB Doc for the 5 gifted subs. He asked me if I could name the Rams quarterback. I could not. And so instead of getting 10 subs, he only gifted 5. Guess I need to keep up with T-Sports. Cubby, can you name the Rams quarterback?
Matt Stafford, Super Bowl champion.
Okay. I didn't even know. I've never heard that name before in my life.
TGI surrogate, cash it in, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I already sent the 5, so I don't think we get another 5. The Catman were for the 18 months. K-Pop or Die for the 10. He just gifted another 5, so we did it. Thank you.
Let's go. I'm providing value.
K-Pop or Die for another 2. I'm pretty sure, unless names have changed dramatically, K-Pop or Die, used to do photography for me back in like whenever he was in college, and now is hopefully a very successful commercial real estate agent. Over on YouTube, thank you to Doubleicious Yo for the $5 super chat, Space Uwu Cowboy, and Eddie for the memberships. YouTube coming through. I really appreciate you guys stepping up and challenging Twitch. All right, shall we get to the next call, Cubby?
Yeah, they're here.
Oh, hello. That was quick. After I mocked you earlier,
I had to make up for the last one.
Now you're ready on the trigger. All right, yeah. Fluffylilpillow is here. Fluffylilpillow, where are you calling from?
Calling from Chicago.
Chicago. I'm going to be there next month. Did you know that?
Oh, no, I did not. But if you want some food recommendations, I'll let you know at the end of the.
Do you know I'm looking for a venue near what's the name of the convention center? It's like a person's name.
McCormick Place.
McCormick Place. Actually, not to dox myself, but I live very, very close to that building.
Okay,
good for you.
I need you to find me. This is a job I'm assigning you that I will not be paying you for. I need you to find me a nearby like bar and or restaurant that is compatible with Magic the Gathering gaming and would be willing to let me like put money on the bar, like a bar minimum that we have to hit in order for me to host an event of people there. So if you could get that going for me, that would be great.
How many people?
Probably let's say 100.
I think there's a few places. Off the top of my head, Victory Tap down. It's about like 4 blocks north. It has
Victory
like an upstairs area. It's like an Italian place.
Is it?
If you want a really nice
tables
bar,
where people can play Magic. What's up, Cubby?
Yeah, there's tables up there.
You want a nice bar reservation, Sydney's. It wouldn't be able to support your event, but
it might be a little expensive too.
Yeah, it's a really nice view, and it's somewhat by where you're at. It'd be a little bit of a hike, but
yeah. Okay. Well, I'm sure both of you guys can work together to get me this. Just if you give me 3 options by the end of tomorrow, that would be fantastic.
Cool.
All right.
Sounds good.
Hey, thanks so much, Fluffylilpillow, for the call. We'll catch you next time. What do you? Next up, I need somebody to help me repair or to hang a new poster that I got on the wall. Fluffylilpillow, what do you want to talk about on the show?
So my hot take is that I think in pro play per split, there should only be 1 patch. So the reason kind of why I had this idea was back in MSI, whatever, when CLG went with SKT to the finals and that whole thing with Aphromoo pulling out, I think like Lulu or whatever, and like completely changing the meta of that Worlds. It was a really exciting and it was cool. And it's like, everyone was kind of playing whatever. And then he pulled that out and then people started playing them. And I think there's a problem, at least for me as a fan watching and like, kind of like me, like, I'll basically watch the Worlds, the finals. Like I don't really watch as much as I used to. And it's because I feel like it gets a little stagnant. And I feel like if there's 1 patch, it forces the teams to really find new and exciting ways to kind of switch up the game, because there's like 170 champs now, and I just feel like instead of it constantly switching, it would give the ability to find these new interesting like picks. And also I think it's kind of frustrating watching like a team do really well and then before a Worlds event, like they switch the patch slightly and then it completely makes a team not do as well. And you can say the players need to adapt for sure, but there obviously is certain players are better at casters or better at assassins, and so I think that affects. I think it'd just be cool, and then you can kind of landmark each split. Like, okay, cool, the winner of MSI, they were the best at whatever this patch was, and the Worlds, that's what they were. And I think it'd just kind of be a cool, unique way. The only pitfall, I guess, is maybe it would get stagnant, but in boredom, creativity is founded. So
I think it's crazy that you feel like it's a very hot take, because like I did not think that you would be like, I think that it becomes too stagnant, so we need less patches so that it's less stagnant. Like most people would say the opposite, right? That like, hey, if we didn't have any patches released during a split, then it would become too stagnant.
I guess my thought is that it becomes stagnant, not because there isn't change, but because players know that there's going to be a change, probably like every 3 or 4 weeks or whatever, there'll be some kind of slight change that changes the meta. So they're not forced to do, there's like 20 champs that are in rotation that they'll just play around. And that's what makes it stagnant. If they know that there's no changes for the whole season or that split, then that will push them to be more creative. If they're not good into whatever meta, they'll find some random pick. And then that's why I was kind of citing the caster or enchanter rather thing that happened in that MSI. And I think more things like that would happen. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just my thought.
I like longer patch cycles. I asked Freak about this. It's one of the reasons why I love Worlds and MSI's tournaments, because teams are forced to play on a patch for a longer time.
Mm-hmm.
I am not sure if I would want the same patch for the entirety of the season, but frankly, given the fact that...
I think you're saying split, right?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so it'd be like
with 3 splits.
3, now.
And
then would you have a separate patch for MSI and Worlds as well? So, and maybe even first stand, so you'd end up with like 6 competitive patches over the course of the year?
Technically, no.
I would think it'd be like, so now that there's like 3 with the first stand, I think it'd be kind of like each patch would be separated off of these world events. And then obviously, if there's like a major bug or something, they can fix it. But for the most, like, that's the only thing. But like,
oh God, man, like we're going to watch the same patch for like 4 months as we go from split 3 into Worlds.
Yeah, I think that in order to make this work, you'd actually need more bans.
Yeah, and maybe change it up. Like the first stand is a new, like, exciting. And I love that, like, that you can't play the same champ. So maybe like for one of these splits, just try it out and maybe change something. Maybe add more bans or whatever you do. Like, make some kind of, stress test on it. But just something different that I don't know.
I'm at the phase with League where I actually really want more bans in the game for competitive too.
Yeah.
Like the way that I would want the pick ban system to work is, if you're a blue side, you get like everything would be the same until after B2. I don't want you to be able to B2 and B3 together. I actually want there to be another ban phase, and then R gets to R3, and then you B3, B4, and then red side gets R4, and then you would ban again, and then blue side and red side each get to last pick. So red side would still get last pick, but like for me, I actually think that more phases of bans and more bans in the game would be a really good way to mix it up. And I think that League's almost ready for that with the amount of champs that are in the game.
Yeah, there's a lot of champs for sure.
Dude, bans are so, like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to add anything more there because I feel like pick ban already takes so long.
Well, I'm in like my Dota head though, because a lot of what the caller is saying is what Dota 2 uses.
Yeah, Dota 2 is fucking dead. All right, Cubby, you want us to be dead too?
No, I want League to be very much alive.
Question: what if like you just have, instead of so you can do like the one patch thing, but every 2 or 3 weeks you only have like X amount of champions that they can pull from, and then it switches to another pool of champions.
Like, I feel like that goes against, in a way, though, what...
Look, the problem is Riot more and more wants the game experience to mimic the play experience. Like, they just went to live patch, and everybody was very excited about that. And I think, I believe that there are other regions that are going to live patch. I don't know if that was just a rumor I heard, or if other regions have publicly announced that or something. I don't know what's going on there.
Everyone's live patch. I think everyone's live patch.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember it's like been such a weird 3 months where like you hear some news and then whatever.
I want to say, I know LEC is. I think LCK might be. I think LPL might have stuck it out. But yeah, I think we're on live patch.
Yeah. So like I think it's very unlikely that they do what you're suggesting, because I think people want to... And I understand why they want the game experience that you're watching to mirror the, like, cool, I just watched the game, I could go load up and have that exact same experience in game, and then you get in game and then you have a terrible experience and somebody says something offensive
and you get flamed.
you flame them and then you get banned instead and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys think that Mark is like a trendsetter? You think other commissioners are all going to start wearing, like, looking like they just rolled out of bed every day and doing these little videos where they talk to the camera and are like, "Hi, I'm Mark Zimmerman.
He's got
my other friend applied for my job 37 times, but somehow I got it instead."
And he misses you so much that he's just trying to talk in front of a camera because he misses this, Travis. Every time he gets in front of that camera, it's his secret love letter to you.
Fluffylilpillow, I'm sorry, I have not been. I'm not down with the same patch thing. I do think it's better for it to mirror the in-game experience, but I will admit that I do like it whenever one patch happens over the course of Worlds, but I'm fine with that staying a Worlds thing,
if I had to make any changes for this, I would go 2 patches a split, and the patch hits in the last 2 weeks of the regular season or after the first round robin, like mostly globally, and then that patch is just locked in through the international event. That'd be my dream, but yeah.
Hey, I like it.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to shout
out? No, just get that bag, bro.
I'm trying to. I would love to get the bag. Do you have any bags that I can get?
I don't know, but Mark Z might have one.
No, he doesn't. I was at the smoothie bar today. They have like 3 arcade machines and 2 of them weren't working. And I turned to my PR handler and I said, "Wow, budget cuts are hitting really hard." Thanks so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Yep. Enjoy Chicago next week.
Thanks.
They just didn't want you to dick around while filming, Travis.
I was eating lunch. I wasn't even in there.
You got to focus up for the long haul, man.
It is weird because the campus is technically closed this week because of the weather stuff. But, like, obviously it's fine for them to do asset day. That's not like there's any fires or anything there but the studio. But I think just to make sure that nobody feels pressure, they did this. I don't know why they did it. I don't mean to speak for them. But, yeah, it's just weird being there. And, like, everybody's wearing masks and stuff to get onto the campus. And I'm like, wow, this is a throwback. All right. We want to grab the next caller?
Yeah, got it.
Hobnobbin, who has previously gifted to the channel, is now up to 36 total because they gifted 5. Thank you so much for that. Sky the DM, thank you for the resub. I have a civil man. I hear Mark mention fantasy for League, which means I show up for Hotline League. I forgot to. Yeah, Sky, I should have reached out to you because I remember you messaged me and you're like, any word about fantasy? And I was like, damn, people still play fantasy? Non-daily fantasy, I should say. And I should have reached out to you because I remember you messaged me and asked me about that. I think that was you, right? We got Avura. Thank you for the 63 months as well. All right. Sky is here. Is this the same Sky or is this a different Sky?
Different.
Different Sky. There's multiple Skies here. Sky, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
Toronto, Ontario, Canada. How pissed are you about last week's new an update on where MSI is happening?
Oh, I'm a bit disappointed.
Yeah.
We got Vancouver.
It does feel like when they announce the country, they should announce, like, especially when it's Canada, where there's probably only like 2 cities that it would be run in. It feels like they should announce the city at the same time because the other city gets their hopes up. I think you get VCT though if you like Valorant.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm gonna watch that because I mean, only depends if 100 Thieves goes.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So I hear a lot of negativity coming out of the NA about, oh man, CBLoL, they just took our world spot, took our second MSI spot. I think that if you're a hardcore NA fan, you should actually be really supportive of CBLoL. And I think if you're a hardcore NA fan, you should actually give it a chance and watch it because I actually think it's an extremely exciting region that has a lot of potential. So I'm not like a total expert. I've only started watching it about 3 years ish. Like, when you just watch it, there's so much excitement throughout it, and I think it's a little unfortunate that people don't want to give it a chance because, like, I don't want to say they're salty, but yeah, I don't know, they just don't want to give it a chance.
When you say give it a chance, what does giving a chance mean?
Like, I think that people who are hardcore NA fans, like, because like it's one region at the end of the day now, right? So, like, these are the in Brazil, these are the people who are going to be representing our region, or like half of it. So I think that people should get familiar with it and kind of accept it. I think that this is going to be what it is from now on. Like when we go to internationals.
I think it's going to be really tough to get North American fans to watch CBLoL or LTA Sul, as I believe it is referred to. Yeah. Because I just feel like if they're going to watch more League, they're probably going to go watch LCK or LEC or something like that, especially other regions where there's pretty strong English coverage. And like if Riot's not interested in creating pretty good English coverage for LTA Sul, like it does not feel like, this is the irony. It doesn't feel to me as though Riot is very interested in actually having the rival like conference watch their rival.
Is maybe the topic of our next call or two.
Okay, so we won't talk about that too much, but yeah, so that's why I just feel like it's going to be really hard to get people to support this or get excited about the other region. But I don't know, but here, make your pitch. Why should people do this?
So when you watch CBLoL, so I said it's an exciting region, so if you watch like LPL, people love LPL because they're just fighting all the time, right? That's kind of the closest comparison I would say to CBLoL. But not only does it have really exciting action, it has amazing commentators. Like, even if you don't speak Portuguese, like, you feel the energy from these casters. And I think in terms of macro, people say they want to see good League of Legends, and in terms of macro, it's not the best. 20 minutes happens, Baron spawns, brain kind of goes off, and they do Baron and they fight immediately after. But I think that it has so much action that it's just an incredibly just like fun region. It has so many memes, amazing community. Like, if you watch CBLoL, like, you look at the stands, there are so many people. There are so many people who care, who love the scene. It's just infectious to me that many people love it. It's just a really exciting region, and it kind of makes me. I think it's unfortunate that Riot and in a way some fans don't want to kind of push it, but I guess that that is their choice, that they don't want to, or at least for now they're not interested in making cross-conference like viewers a thing. I hope maybe 2026, praying. But yeah, I think that.
What do you mean? They stood right across from each other, 4 players from each conference.
I mean, I do like we'll save it for the next call, but like clearly we'll end up watching each other at some point in time because we're going to be facing each other. But
yeah, I plan on watching it. I will be watching that conference, not as closely as the North, but it's not like I'm not going to tune in. I think the biggest win, or what Riot needs to nail for this upcoming season, is they did condense a lot of the regions. I think that the regions that they did condense, they need to do a good job of selling the new region, and that is cross-pollination from fans. So LTA North fans being fans of some of the teams in the South, or just rooting for that region when they go abroad, whatever it is. So I at least appreciate this call, because you are obviously already motivated and enjoy the product that you're watching. in the LTA South, or what was CBLoL. And I hope that a lot of the other people at least give it a shot and tune in. But I think how accessible that's going to be, especially when multiple languages are going to be involved, and how the teams will try and combat that, that's going to be something to look out for, because at the moment, kind of like what Travis is hinting at or talking about, it doesn't look promising.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how...
I can see that.
Like, I don't know. I do feel like there's a world where... I don't think that it's going to ever get to a point where, like, you have a lot of former LCS fans that are now, like, really invested in the Brazil scene. But I do think
you want them to root for
time,
those teams, though, when they go abroad, right? I think that's, like, goal one. Goal two.
Why do you want that, out of curiosity? I'm not saying I disagree, but I'm curious, like, why? Why?
I mean, if I'm not a fan of any teams, but let's say I'm a 100 Thieves fan. If 100 Thieves makes it to the international event, obviously I'm rooting for them. If they don't, I want to root for the teams that are likely from the region that I watch 100 Thieves play in, because those are the teams that I'm going to be most familiar with. So for me, like, as a fan, you want to see fans continue to engage even when their number one reason for not being, or for engaging, isn't available to them anymore. So I think that the cross-pollination, or actually rooting for LTA South teams, like, that's important for me in terms of the new ecosystem, because it shows that fans are just invested in the league as a whole. And even if their favorite player or favorite team isn't there, rooting for a team, whether that's a LTA North or South team, I think that is a step towards, or a sign that Riot will have condensed all this in a manner that's good for fandom. So yeah, I think for me, it's important that fans engage at that level. That's why I care about it.
I think I guess we should probably go to the next call, because I know that it kind of deals with this stuff as well, and I have further thoughts along those lines. So,
yeah.
But Sky, I do appreciate you calling in and being a hype man for LTA Sul. I should just start calling them that, because I think that's what they're, like, how it's...
Yeah, that's the proper Portuguese.
Yes, like, their YouTube channel is LTA Sul. All right. Thanks so much, Sky. Anything you want to shout out here?
Yo, shout out to Toronto League community. We didn't get MSI. Hopefully, Worlds 2026. And shout out to Toronto Raptors. They just beat Golden State. Imagine losing to the Raptors.
I can't imagine. That's crazy. All right. Thanks so much for calling. Catch you next time.
Thanks for giving me the time, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, guy.
All right.
That's funny.
Let's just hop into our next caller, because I know that we are... I know that we are following that one up. Hobnobbin. I did shut you up, but just again, thank you for the 5. Over on YouTube, thank you to SMG for the $5 super chat, Icebreaker Mints for becoming a member, and Babuski also for becoming a member. I highly recommend becoming a member. I think that's the other perk I should mention to folks, is that we will start getting back into the swing of putting up content early for folks on membership. I had kind of forgotten about that. So it is a good reason to become a YouTube member, because you can sometimes get videos early before other people see them, which is kind of cool. So we've got our next caller here. It's Evil Trenton. Evil Trenton, where are you calling from?
Madison, Wisconsin.
Madison, Wisconsin. What do you want to talk about on the show?
LTA still hasn't provided an update on whether they're doing an English broadcast for Brazil. And I don't really understand the point of a rivalry if you can't understand the losing team.
I thought they did. Am I crazy?
They did. It's just, it's not going to exist.
Well, they said that they're going to... I think they said they're going to partner with co-streamers.
Yes. That's...
so I don't... Yeah, so there will not be...
The official broadcast will not exist in English. It's just that if you want English coverage, then you'll watch English co-streamers in order to tune into this league.
So what do you think of that, Evil Trenton?
I mean, if they're anything like the English, like the LCS co-streamers from last year, I don't think that's enough to grow the rivalry, because they're probably not going to be giving the same storytelling that a official broadcast would do.
I have mixed thoughts on this. Cubby, you go first, because I need to figure out how to couch this in a safe way to do this.
I think that, like, just kind of what I was talking about in the last call, where success for me with the condensation of leagues and combining leagues that used to exist under one umbrella. You need to have fans that root for the new league. You want to have LTA North fans rooting for LTA South when the time comes, and vice versa. So I do think that it is important to engage, and for Riot to make it easier to engage with these leagues. And I think that the fact that they're not going to have an official broadcast in the opposite language or other languages for this, so no English broadcast for the LTA South, no Portuguese broadcast for the LTA North. For me, that's Riot. Like, that's not a decision that is made for fans. And I know that the fans will be able to access the language that they want through co-streamers, but co-streaming is not the same as an official broadcast. And by not having the official broadcast like behind the co-streamers as well, it's just going to make a worse product. And Riot is not giving you a home as a fan, an official home, in order to be a fan of the new league or the new parts of the new league, if I'm not able to watch anything official for LTA South in English. And I think that it is Riot really making a budget decision and not a decision that is good for fans whatsoever. But the KPIs that Riot cares about is time watched and unique viewers, and they can reach this through co-streaming for free, which is still the same issue it is as co-streamers. And the broadcast and the people that do the broadcast that get paid to be on those days officially and try and be as effective as they can for 6+ hours, which is my job and what I like to do, that those people are being cut out. And that is just, it is what it is. And it sucks for fans. I really think so. And like, you're not being given a home in the new climate for the parts of the league that you are now supposed to be a fan of under the umbrella that is now LTA. And that sucks. And there's no way around that.
I'm running a poll over on Twitch. I will start it on YouTube too whenever I remember how to do it on YouTube. But asking everybody, would you watch an official LTA South broadcast often?
Okay.
And I ask people to be honest in your answer. Like, I know some people might be like, yeah, fuck Riot.
Can we assume that it's on at different times for this?
Yeah.
Like, it's not on at the same time as LTA North?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's fine. So it's running over on...
If that's the case, then it's a yes. I'm not going to watch LTA South over any of the stuff that I work or I have to watch, or like the big matches and like other. If it's between that and EU, I will probably have both on, and I will go towards what game is better and mostly default to EU, but it's not like I would not watch it.
Yeah.
And the way that I choose to watch things is usually through official broadcasts. It kind of depends on the split. Like, there are some splits where I watch mostly muted just because I want to form my own opinions. I'm unique in this, but some splits where I listen to like a lot of what other people have to say. I try and switch it up. Change the approach, yeah.
So I have mixed feelings on this because I personally feel like it sends a mixed message to be like, hey, everyone, we're all one league now. LTA is Brazil and North America and Latin America split between the two, and you should care about this league and both sides of it, and then not have an official broadcast.
100%.
But I don't think that, like, I personally don't think that it makes strategic sense to merge the LTA in the first place, right? I'm really excited about the experiment this year. I think it's going to be cool. I am like not trying to shit on this as a concept. I think I want to see how it plays out this year. But I don't think that if in the very first place, if you were like, LCS seems to be having some issues and we're trying to figure out like what the best product is, I don't think that this is the product I would have made. And I don't think it's a product that makes sense. So it's kind of this weird thing where I'm like, okay, on one hand, like, I don't think this is a good idea, so investing more resources into it is kind of a weird decision. But also, why do it in the first place if you're not going to support it in an official capacity?
Yeah.
I think the place that I'm landed at is like, I actually think it's fine for them to have an official co-stream, or at least a couple official co-streams, as long as they can find co-streamers who are half decent and will actually do it. Like if it's a thing where somebody tunes in for like the one hype match and then they just turn it off, and like, or they skip a week or whatever, and you really only have this one person who's doing it, like I think then like, okay, you need to find some way to encourage people to do this. So I think, because I think like, as an experiment, Cubby, let's say that like Captain Flowers committed to, the scheduling wasn't on top of each other, and Captain Flowers was going to co-stream every LTA Seoul match. I think that could be really cool. I think in some ways it might be more cool than an official broadcast. I think official broadcasts sometimes tend to be a little stuffy. They've certainly gotten better about that over time. But like having this fun alternative, like, hey, you watch the official broadcast for LTA North or LCS previously all the time. Maybe you want something more unique and fun, and like a co-stream I think is a pretty good way to go about that. And so if you have a really great co-streamer, I think it could be in some ways superior to the amount of money that they would put into an official broadcast. I just like, they need to find that person. The other thing is like, this is kind of what I was going to get into with the other call. So Cubby, if you think about it, when is the LTA South and North components actually relevant in a year?
It is for the winter split or split one, where they come together, and then for Worlds, where they come together in the playoff bracket twice. Yes.
So from my perspective, it's like, all right, we're going to play 5 days in split one, and then we go and we play LTA Seoul. That's a moment where I feel very invested in knowing stuff about LTA South and whatever. For the giant time in the middle of the year where we're in split 2 and then we go to MSI, I don't really care as much. Like, it's not relevant particularly to me as an LTA North fan, like what's going on in the South, because I don't have to face these teams unless, I face their best team at MSI, in which case like they become as relevant to me as a team from LCK or LEC or whatever. And then we go into split 3. We have 6 weeks of North play, and then we have the regional championship, which is I think like 3 weeks long. So like really it's only 5 weeks of the year in which there's actually any kind of inter-conference play. So like I don't think
that's a pretty big chunk, I will say.
You think 5 weeks is are you saying?
Yeah. No, I that's like a part of a like summer split, like that.
Yeah, I just think that like when you're looking at like we only get 5 weeks of intra-conference play like a year. I don't feel like it makes sense for fans to invest into caring a ton about the other conference. And so then I don't think it makes sense for Riot to invest a ton into getting people to care about the other conference, which is part of the reason why I don't know if this thing even makes sense in the first place. But like, now that we're here, I don't know if you want to, what's the sunk cost fallacy? It's like, okay, well, we have to do this LTA thing. So do we want to pour even more money into it,
Yeah. I mean, I will say, I think 5 weeks is actually a decent chunk of the year. Also, keep in mind that the stakes for these matches, it's not going to be regular season matches. Like when the conferences do cross-pollinate, it's going to be pretty high stakes, like best of 5s to go to Worlds, to go international. Like for me, that is good reason to care. The other thing, I will not argue against co-streaming monetarily, because Riot is saving thousands of dollars a day not having an official broadcast and handing it over to co-streamers to just have. But the quality of those co-streams go down. You even mentioned, like in your verbiage describing it, is co-streaming is an alternative. Well, it's no longer an alternative. It is the option with the new setup they're going for. And I think that's a lot worse. Co-streaming for me, like I visualize a lot of it. Like tonight, the NFL playoff games are going on. You have the main broadcast, and then they do the Manning cast, where they have two brothers, and it's a very co-stream vibe. They have guests. They have the game. It is different. It is an alternative. But again, that will now be the option. And kind of what you're talking about, Travis, like finding someone to commit to that and what is required to actually bring LTA South or North to the audience that you want to bring it to. Obviously, there is a lot of upside to co-streaming if you're the streamer itself. You have a great product that you get to just kind of stream and talk over. But there's nothing like Riot doesn't have these co-streamers signing stuff to be like, oh, like we're going to stream all these games, or we're not gonna play other games in queue. Like we're always gonna be here, right? It's up to them, and so it's hard to find. And the only way that they do that is actually by having an official broadcast, and then having the co-streams be an alternative. And that also ups all the co-streams because in the background they have the official broadcast of their language playing, and not just a clean feed with observers where they have to fill all the time with themselves and any guests they have. Like that, it helps a lot for co-streamers when you actually have the official broadcast behind it, because they always get content to react to, because it's a lot of people behind the scenes prepping to be really effective for the 6 hours that the show's going on. That's going to help co-streamers be more effective themselves. So,
Cubby, how many? Let me challenge you a little bit. How many viewers would this official broadcast need to get before? Because I know you've already acknowledged it makes more monetary sense for them to do co-streaming, but like, at what point in time would you be like, okay, this co-stream is not getting, or this official broadcast in the alternate language is not getting enough viewership for you to feel like it's worth it at all, in any context?
Yeah. Oh man, I guess.
Like, and when we talk about official broadcasts, are we talking about like it feels like it does in the the LCS broadcast feel, or is it more like when you guys are doing tier 2 broadcasts and it's like folks kind of at home? And
it's kind of hard because like I feel like you'd have to go with that, or you just do it the way that like LCK English does, where obviously you have multiple broadcasts that are on site. I don't expect to have that much. I feel like, I mean, given the way that they treated the LPL, like there is no standard anymore, because Riot throwing that out the window just really throws.
Because at a certain point in time, I start to feel like like we talk about official broadcast versus co-stream, but like especially in other regions, like the North American co-streamers pale in comparison to some of the co-streams you see in other regions where they turn it into like what feels in some ways like an official broadcast. I think they do some more studio stuff. They do some more like segments or whatever. So like in my mind, when you start to move away from the in broadcast experience or like in studio broadcast experience that we see, for instance, in the LCS in previous years, the line between co-stream and official broadcast starts to get blurry, where you're like, okay, if we're hiring some like casters that are less known, and maybe we hope to build them up, but like, and they're broadcasting at home and they don't, we're not having like a switcher or whatever. They're doing a lot of the broadcasts on their own. Like you start to get to a point where it's like, okay, this is now mostly a co-stream, but it's officially Riot recognized, and there's not too much of a difference, right?
Yeah, I still feel like there's a difference. Like the biggest thing for me is that as a co-streamer, you are committed to making your own product successful, but like that's it. Like me getting paid by Riot, I have to show up every day. I feel like the incentive structure is very different.
That is very fair. I agree with that. That is, if you are like, I'm getting paid to do this job, I have to deliver this. That is, a co-streamer is kind of like, it's like they get to decide how much of that they want to do.
Yeah, especially for the big ones too. I mean, you're going to have spots where in the middle of the season, it's like, hey guys, like for the last week, I've been doing LPL, LCK, LEC, and LCS. I need a day off. Yeah. And like that's understandable. That's like, again, I don't want to be a co-streamer. That schedule is ballistic. I would not be successful like that. I am successful when I get to prep.
Oh, did you just cut out? You're cutting out a little bit.
No.
It looks like you're back now. Oh, now you're cutting out again. I don't know what's going on. Maybe I'm lagging. No, it doesn't look like lag.
And like biggest thing is, I just think incentive is so much different between co-streams and official broadcasts, and like what we have to bring. And I think that in terms of the product that's being delivered, I mean, yeah, Riot has scaled down broadcast so much that it is kind of similar. And these co-streamers, some of them have gotten so successful that they actually put in big money to make a production, or Riot houses them. Like, I think Riot gives more resources to casual co-streaming LEC than they gave to the LPL casters as a whole. If you think about actually getting a studio set up, like getting in there and being set up like that and incorporating that with the main broadcast, like LPL were doing this from their bedrooms for the vast majority of the split, right?
I mean, Cajal is carrying the LEC though.
Yeah, he is. Like, it's not like I'm blaming Riot for this, but just think of how much that they've scaled down their broadcast as a whole over the last like 5-10 years. LPL used to be in like there, like over in China. It's been from bedrooms for years, and now it's nothing, right? So I feel like I'm kind of getting lost. I feel like I'm getting lost or talking in circles here. I still really feel like if you are Riot Games, you have to put something forward officially if you actually want fans to care. You can't just expect a co-streamer to walk in and do exactly what you're saying, like save LTA South. Like Riot can pitch this around as, oh, it's a big opportunity for co-streamers to hop in and, you know, like broadcast this league for free. We'll give you a clean feed. And you can make money and, you know, help us promote our product and we'll help promote you, right? But like if that's their investment into bringing this to other language audiences, then I don't feel like you can actually expect people to care about this. I think that you do need to put in some official investment. Be like, hey, we're going to bring this to you, and hopefully the fans continue. Going back to your point about viewership, I'd say NACL, our baseline is about 8K. That's a secondary league in a main language broadcast. You have to keep in mind that this would be a main league in a secondary language broadcast. So I think that my hope or expectation was that this would get 10 to 15K. And you would be competing with LEC likely with the time slot, which would be hard for English fans. But again, if you are an NA fan or LTA North fan, this could be your new appetizer to the games later on. Like be what LEC was to LCS. You can now have that within your own conference. And if I'm Riot, that's the kind of fandom that I want to create in the new structure that I've built for 2025. Yeah. And by not giving fans that home, I don't think you can expect fans to have this interaction that I'm talking about, which I think is really important, which is we're going to be rooting for the LTA South teams when they do well at international events. Like those are our secondary teams. We want to actually latch on the teams and players over there as well, because we're going to be competing under the same umbrella. I don't think that by not offering an official place for me as an English speaker to now consume this league, then yeah, Riot can't expect us to actually latch on if they're not going to give us the ways to do that.
Yeah, and I'm not, to be clear, I'm not sure if they do expect people to latch on or not. Like, again, I'm very, it seems, you know, in all of this, it has always felt as though Riot is 1 foot in on this concept and 1 foot out, which I think is weird, but I don't know. You probably have different people within Riot that have different commitments to this. Look, to kind of put a pin on this, because I agree that we're kind of going back and forth on this stuff. The two things I do think are fair are, one, look, if we could get 8 to 10K on a alternate language stream of each broadcast, and you didn't have to put in studio level production values into that, I think that could be self-sustainable, because you could sell those views to other sponsors. And like, I mean, I'd love to get
you'd also be helping streams. the existing sponsors to
reach
right,
exactly.
People,
like
right?
you can figure out a way, hopefully, to monetize
there is value.
That additional thing. You could put those numbers in as viewership for sponsors and stuff. The other thing that I do think is a little concerning is if you go to the Welcome to the LTA post, and they talk about everything from here's our sponsors for the split to here's our Twitch subs. We've got the Twitch extension coming. Here's Fantasy LTA. Here's every social channel for LTA North and LTA South. And there's no talk about who the co-streamers are going to be. You know, I would feel a little bit more confident in the co-streamer decision if they were like, and here's our official partners for each of the streams, and they've committed to streaming 80% of the games or something like that. Like, it is a little worrying that like that's not something that has popped up yet, but yeah, I don't know.
They always save that for like the week of or like right before,
I guess. I feel like that's a mistake. Like if you're already directing people to social channels, also direct people to tune in on these channels and then repost that again like the week before or something. I don't know. I don't know why that's so precious that you would wait to reveal the places in which people can watch the alternate language streams.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, so
I think that's important.
Yeah. Anyway, I know we've gone back and forth on this stuff for a while. Thank you so much, Evil Trenton, for the call. I know we talked a little bit. Is there anything you want to add here at the end?
Nope. I think you guys make a lot of great points. I really do think that they are doing a half-assed job in terms of trying to get us to watch LTA South, and I wish that it really felt like they wanted this rivalry to go off besides just the tournament, and they cared about the fan experience. But it's new. It'll get better, hopefully. But yeah, that's about it.
Thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
Shout out to my girlfriend who I got addicted to League. She plays ARAM every day. And shout out to my 2 cats.
Nice. Have a good one. All right. We got one final call of the evening.
One more. Yeah.
Shout out to everybody watching. We don't have any subs or members or anything to shout out during this break between calls, but thanks to everybody who's tuning in this week. It's nice to feel like the vibes are good this week. It's been nice to do stuff. Oh, and as I say that, Bob and George give some membership over on YouTube. Yeah, please consider becoming a YouTube member, folks. I do think it is one of the nicer things I have. And if you're over on Twitch, look, Twitch hides the shit out of those free Prime subs now, but you can still free Prime sub. I have a add-on that lets you move your cursor over the screen. A little purple crown pops up. You can use it that way. Ventus is here. Ventus, where are you calling from?
The DMV, or like the DC area.
DC area. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Okay, so I'm basically backing up the LTA South caller that was like 2 calls ago, except for the LTA North side, because I am extremely excited for this season. I'm happy about the rebranding, and I have not been this excited for League or watching League since like 2018 franchising.
Okay, why?
So one, I'm a huge sucker for international play. So just like playing against the LTA South and it actually like having a world spot on the line and consistently playing the same league is exciting to me. 2, I do believe I see the vision. I think that people will become fans of the whole region over time. I think Riot has the power to make that possible, even as much like you could just do an episode of Pros with someone from Latin America South or LTA South, not Latin America South, sorry, LTA South and LTA North when the stars align to make that happen. And man, also it's just like I'm a fan of the formats. I'm a fan of change. I didn't have the most positive association with the LCS as a brand, just because to me it felt. I understand for people, for all of you guys in California who you go to the studio every single week, you know the people who work on the product, you help build the product, you've been a part of the product for so long, and you're ingrained in it. But for me, as someone just on the outside, who I don't see the people or any of those pieces, basically until last season when Mark took over, I really just started, like if there's any word I could associate with the LCS, it would be complacency. There's complacency with the LCS as a brand, like decisions being made. There's complacency with the teams in terms of like teams not even really putting out content. I just began to associate the brand, I guess, negatively. And I also think that I'm excited for the format changes. And I honestly don't really see, the only thing to me that we're giving up is the brand of calling it the LCS. But on paper, the product to me just seems way more interesting or entertaining. We already know that things can change next year in terms of format changes, just to see how things go. And also, CBLoL was supposed to be this incredibly entertaining league. They don't do super well at Worlds, although last Worlds, I'm pretty sure the wildcard teams seem to be doing way better, so I think that LTA North can be threatened. But despite that, they had such a good product that like Their fans are really diehard. They're entertaining, or they're clearly entertained, and I'm curious on why that is the case. Clearly, they're doing something correct, and I'm surprised that people are not happy about this. Like I guess I'm like the complete opposite of where everyone else is sitting on this fence, because I just don't understand. To me, it just seems like a net positive all around the board. But that is my my general take.
I see some people in chat calling you a paid caller, and I will just say this
Dude,
is the
I wish.
longest paid caller con in existence, because he's been a sub for 78 months. So if they just set up this account for 78 months to get this guy in to call.
It's
an insane long time.
Yeah. If you have to boil it down to, like, because you've listed out a lot of things that you feel like you are excited about, what is the single thing that you are most excited about for the upcoming split?
The interplay between the regions.
Okay.
I mean, that is the thing that I am most excited about too, because I do think that is in terms of LTA changes, that is like the only thing that is really big or interesting. Like the other format changes and all that stuff mostly came, I think, to other regions as well, and probably would have presumably come to LCS as well. It's so funny, Ventus, because you my take had been for a long time that, like, I'd heard from people who felt like, especially close to the LCS, that were like, it's okay that we're name changing because there's negative association with the LCS. And I had thought that is goofy, because I think the negative association with the LCS are like people who watch fucking Thorin content or are on Reddit all the time or whatever. Whereas, like, I go to Magic events or I meet people out in the wild, or all these people who are like, yeah, I drifted off from LCS, like the rosters were changing too much, or I stopped playing League or something like that, but they're still like, they still have a ton of positive association with the LCS. And so I feel like the LCS brand was still in a healthy, good place. Like, it is funny that you think that it is like, oh, Travis, you like the LCS because you know people there and you work in California and you have all this stuff. Quite frankly, I feel like people in our positions are more likely to have negative brand association with the LCS because they're like, oh God, this has gone downhill, or we've had issues, or viewership is bad, or whatever. Whereas, like, your average fan who knows about the LCS and has that knowledge, but maybe stopped watching a couple of years ago, they didn't stop watching because they're like, I fucking hate LCS now. Like they probably just drifted away and they have fond memories and they're like, I miss when Bjergsen played. So for me, I think people feel the negativity comes from the fact that they're like, why should I care about Brazil? Where, there's not any like inherent in contrast to Europe, where the league has many of their leagues have these like historic in some cases millennia long rivalries that are inherent to that region. There's not, like, Brazil and in North America do not have like a natural rivalry. The US and Brazil, I don't think, have much of a natural rivalry. There's probably more of a rivalry between Germany and Brazil because of the World Cup thing many years ago than there is between the US. And so, like, I think a lot of people are like, why should I care about this? And they're like, now, and I think a lot of people are annoyed because they're like, I've tried now, if I want to get my friends to watch LCS, I have to explain to them what this LTA thing is. They might feel like a lot of the rival you've talked about, maybe that there will be some challenging matches between North and South, but like, I don't, if we just go down there and we just destroy Brazil and then, like, that's it, it's sort of like, oh, our teams are actually probably not getting good experience ahead of the international event. I think there are a lot of reasons. I don't fault people for being negative or worried about it, even though I also don't fault you, and I'm happy to hear that you are excited about LTA.
Well, so with my whole theming around this being that when I associate the LCS, I associate it with complacency. That is another reason why, like, when I'm looking at Brazil, I'm somewhat rooting for their success because, again, in my mind as an LCS viewer, I have this idea of the LCS or LTA North being complacent in a lot of areas, not just gameplay. In fact, most areas not. And one example would be, we're talking about what is Riot going to do to make people fans of LTA South teams if you're a LTA North viewer. And I do agree they should do things, and I think they have. One, I'm a believer based on what I'm seeing and the actual like bold decisions being made that it's possible. I think it's more probable to happen than not that people to convert fans or not make someone a diehard fan, but make them interesting enough. You have a charismatic player go on pros, and all of a sudden now there is a team that people really like this player, and then you have that player, and then you want to find out more about them, and then you get into that ecosystem little by little. I don't think it's this shift that people are going to have immediately. I think it's through enough exposure and enough interesting personalities, and I have to assume they have some awesome personalities if their fans are that rabid about their product. So I'm overall, I am a believer in what I believe Riot is going for. And the other aspect of it is, when I was talking about the LCS as a brand being complacent, I'm also putting that on the teams. And I know we're always talking about how Riot can do more for the teams, but there's so many teams that do not try to, it doesn't even seem like they're trying to get their own fan base in their own region. And so I'm pretty confident that a team in LTA South with effort, which is already going to be doing more to convert me as a fan than a lot of teams that were previously in the LCS, are going to be able to reach me because they tried to do so, and they put a good foot forward. And there are going to be teams that I don't care about in LTA South or might not even know who exist. But if you have one or two teams who actually make a concerted effort, which I know it sounds crazy to hear a team in League of Legends making a concerted effort to capture you as a fan that is not like a Cloud9 or a Team Liquid or 100 Thieves. But yeah, I think it's a thing that can happen. And I think that it doesn't seem that crazy to me for that to happen either. And we just write off that can even exist because the bar is so underneath the ground for things like that in the LCS that it's not even
changing the name of the league is going to fix that, right?
I just think it would feel like weird to me if you kept calling it the LCS, I wouldn't be like, oh, this is so bad. But I do think that I like the reason why I like the fact that they changed the name, besides of the bad association that I have with it, is mainly because it feels like such a new product. And to me, it feels like so much of a better product, where if I'm trying to convince people, like my friends who used to watch the LCS, to get back into it, it just feels easier to do because it sheds. It's a new thing. It's like it's a rebirth of what the product was before, and it's not just a name change. There's a lot of things coming with the name change.
I feel like it's the opposite. If I have to explain to somebody to start watching, like, hey, tune into LTA, then they have to say, what's LTA? And then you have to go through this big explanation. It's like, wait, so they merged Brazil and North America? No, not really. Like, they only play each other 5 weeks a year. Okay, then why is this happening in the first place? Like, I'm not even saying that the structure is bad, but I am saying that it's not easy to explain to somebody.
In that sense, but like the way that conversation is, like interpersonal communication wise, I would still be like, oh yeah, the LCS, and then you go into it changed names. First, I would go with the changes, and then be like, and they branded. It's not just North. the U.S. and Canada now. It's like the whole. It's we have a South side now too. And so, and also, if the product, I think the product is going to be just way, way better. Based on the formats, I'm excited for the formats. Call me crazy. So like to me, it's literally like you're going from like Charmander to like Charizard, or I guess Charmeleon year one. But you can like it should be named something new. If they kept the conferences, you could like you wanted to keep the North Conference LCS. I see the argument there, but just like I guess just from a holistic view, again, maybe I'm biased because I don't have a good association with the LCS. As I'm a fan of.
We have your stance on the LCS stuff. Not to cut you off, but we're
You're good. You're good.
Yeah,
Cubby, I don't know if you want to weigh in.
I'm glad you're excited. I'm excited for the new ways that the leagues and fans can interact with the teams that now exist in the two conferences. I don't think that my take will change, that I wish that it was still the LCS and CBLoL brands, kind of going off of what Travis was saying. If I have a friend getting back into it, I feel like it'd be a lot easier to just be like, but yeah, like the LCS competes against CBLoL in like a couple of the splits now. And they call it Americas. I think that like LCS is now LTA North, and then the CBLoL is now LTA South. Like for me, like I feel like they wanted the new name to kind of just say that this is year 15 and it's a new era, but outside of the logos combining, I don't think.
I mean, to your point, Cubby, from the last call, it's not even like the, they're not making a lot of the other things that would make sense for this unified thing. It's not like there's now one broadcast and you get to see your favorite LCS casters cast Brazil games. It's not like there's a ton of interregional play. I know you say 5 weeks is a lot. It is a small fraction of the overall play. Like it does feel like, to your point, it would be a lot easier to be like, hey, we now have more international play because LCS goes and fights. They could have even called it the LTA, but then kept LCS and CBLoL as the
and then just called Americas.
Yeah. The LCS is part of the LTA now. So Ventus, I totally think it is awesome that you are excited about this, that this is something that excites you. I hope there are other people that are like this. Like, I would love it if I am just, as Space Uwu Cowboy said, an unk. He called me, it's okay. He says, it's something new, Travis. It's okay, unk. Maybe I am just a boomer and I am stuck in my ways. And like, there's a ton of people out there that are gonna be like, what? What's the LTA? I gotta learn about this. We fight Brazil? Oh my God. And to be clear, there are things that I'm excited about. Like, I do think it will be fun to watch this kickoff tournament where we go and, we get to see our teams play each other, and then they go and play in Brazil for a couple of weeks. So like, I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing, but I have not been swayed yet that it made sense to rebrand and change everything. I don't feel as though that makes a lot of sense, even just in terms of like SEO. Like, we've talked about this before, where if we like search, let's see if they've updated it. Like, you type LTA schedule into Google, there's nothing there. You type in LEC schedule, like, stuff comes up. There's all these, like searching LTA. We were talking last week about how it comes up with like Lawn Tennis Association. There's a lot of intrinsic value in a brand that has been around for over a decade. And I think you use a lot of that in their system.
The LTA definitely has the LCS complacency marketing going on. But besides that, I'm actually curious, and I don't want to hold on too long, but I don't understand why do you two value the brand of the LCS like as a name besides
because
basically talking to your friends and being like,
I won't go over it too long because we've talked about this in the past, but I think that LCS is like Coke or Kleenex to people who think about LoL esports, especially in North America. Like I think there were times where I would be at a Magic event and I would know the person I'm talking to is like a casual viewer, and Worlds would have been like the early Worlds games would have started off and I wouldn't have gone over there yet, but they'd be like, I missed LCS last night. How did we do against China? Like LCS was a synonymous brand with all esports. And I think that when you have a brand like that, it's not a good idea to throw it out.
Okay, that's a pretty fair point.
I agree. The thing that like why they made the change, I can only assume it's because they wanted to drop the baggage, kind of like what you're bringing up, or any baggage that they feel like they had. But yeah, I think that LCS and CBLoL was fine.
I am curious on how many people, like how many people I represent, who are like unknown versus, the other side of the coin, just based on like selection of people coming onto this show, I guess. But anyway, I appreciate you having me on.
The one other thing I do want to mention on this is like I also don't like that it's LTA North. Like Jamada in the chat brought up like when they switched from EU LCS to LEC. One, I think EU LCS had been around for probably half as long as LCS did whenever they got rid of LCS and it became LTA. But I also think like it was a good decision to drop the EU from whatever they were doing and really brand themselves as a unique entity that could market itself specifically to a region that the product was primarily made for. LTA South is not primarily made for fans in North America, and similar with LTA North. And so creating a distinctive product, like LTA North is already a distinct product that will be made for LTA North fans. That's why there's not going to be, that's why they're doing these co-streamer things instead of official broadcasts. Like dropping like a shorter moniker, you have to tell people to go watch LTA North. It's like you can't even just tell them to watch LTA. Like there's just a lot.
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that entirely. I mean,
I agree with that as well.
LCS and CBLoL, what was wrong with it? That's all I have to say. But hey, at least now we have two logos that merge into one, and they look like a stealth bomber and a ward. That's how I'm gonna.
You have to stop making that joke, Cubby.
What? It does.
I know, but that is not the. Look, I don't want us to end on a sour note because I am excited about LTA. I think it's cool, and I am excited to see us just completely demolish LTA South, and then I get to make fun of Mark and people for doing
and then Travis, you get to be like, how could we expect anything out of that region when their logo is a ward?
I no longer care about this logo conversation. Okay, thank you so much, Ventus Official, for the call. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
NZXT, and anyone who would like to support Travis, feel free to gift those subs in the chat. But outside of that, no, not really.
Thank you so much.
Get small victories in your life.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We'll catch you next time.
All right, bye.
This was a really good episode. I'm really glad. I was like, we're gonna do two. I just was like, we haven't done one of these episodes in a while, and it's always kind of fun whenever it's just the two of us and we can just go back and forth. And it seems like there was enough stuff to talk about this week. A lot of people had a lot of things to bring up, so I'm happy with it.
Yeah, there was. Honestly, the last 2 weeks, we got to dive into, I guess, some higher level conversations since we don't have like a lot of news or action at the time.
Yeah. So. Well, next week will be fun because we'll be getting into the sort of how people think teams are going to do and all that stuff, and what rosters they're excited about and all that stuff, because next Monday will be the first episode before the LTA kicks off, so that'll be really fun. Cubby, I know you are working on a power rankings video. You think you're going to have that ready to go by maybe we release it on Monday or something, and then we can talk about it on the show?
Yeah, we'll see if I'm able to get that one going. I have to maybe talk to an editor and then also shoot it, but My schedule's a little bit weird
I
right
have an
now.
interview. I thought we had this whole conversation. I mean, we can have it offline, but I thought for sure you were working on this.
No, I am. Things just got weird. I have a few projects at the moment, and I'm on LPL English twice this week, so my schedule's like a little bit backwards.
Yeah.
That's
well, I'm glad to hear you've got
6 a.m.
some work stuff going on. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
No, I'll make it happen. So we'll have a power ranking video up before there's any gameplay for this season. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for everyone who called in. What do you want to shout out, plug, Cubby?
Shout out to the Scholastic Esports Awards. They gave out an award to 4 students named after Phil Alexander, the professor that I had to pass and had a really big impact on Miami, Ohio esports. So 4 students won that, and Zach gave the speech from he works at Miami now, was a student, now works there, and did a great job honoring Phil.
Really cool.
So shout out to that. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. All right. For me, I will shout out. What do I want to shout out? I feel like
we already shouted out all the first responders, which is very relevant to our area.
That's true.
That was a good shout out.
No, I mean, obviously, continued shout outs to all those impacted and all those people working to keep others safe during this trying time in Los Angeles. No, I mean, I think shout out to the players and teams and everybody who's back in the studio yesterday and today doing asset day stuff. I've got some fun content coming. Shout out to folks who continue to support me through the off season. I think is a good thing. Yeah, thank you to everybody who's a member or a sub. It is really tough. More than I think ever before, I have felt sort of the pains of a job and career that is very seasonal, and I've not had to experience that in the past in terms of income and revenue and all that stuff. So obviously I'm doing fine, but it does mean that I really value folks who keep the subs and memberships and going and all that stuff. And obviously if that's not something that's in your financial capacity, I don't want anyone to ever feel pressured or anything like that, but I do really appreciate all the support from folks. So thanks everyone for watching. We'll be back next week with our kickoff episode ahead of the LTA. See you then.